Now we're next on to our next set of lecture for Modular 9. Today we're going to talk about working drawings and the different various types of working drawings and what us as interior designers deal with our type of working drawings, which is very specific. So I want to expose you to different various types of working drawings and also show you how they are integrated with our own design and how they work together. And it's good to be aware once you understand all the moving parts that go into building something and what our part is and what the other parts are, it will help you to understand how to design, how to read and understand what the other various professions do, and that we all work together. So it's really important. So let me try to get to my PowerPoint, and there it is, and change that screen to better understand all about interior drawings. Okay, here we go. And let me get this just going on a slideshow, shall we? Animation, a slideshow from the beginning. Yes. So basically right now, we are going to talk about the introduction to interior design drawings. Our learning objectives today, I want you to be able to understand the various types of construction drawings, identify what drawings are in an ID set, know how to dimension a floor plan, identify the components of a floor plan, clarification on exterior wall construction, and a little bit about our title block design. So those are the objectives that I'm hoping that we'll achieve through this process. So let's get to it. So next we want to go to the types of drawings. Now, as an interior designer, you are going to actually deal with all of these types of drawings. The very first type of drawing is the civil engineer. Then you have architectural drawings, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and interior design drawings. That's what we do. They're called ID drawings. Some people call them finished drawings, but we call them ID drawings. And then there are some oftentimes specialty drawings like kitchen drawings. I design restaurants, so I deal a lot with kitchen drawings, K drawings. Now, civil engineer, they are more prone. Let me go back. Civil engineer, they deal with, imagine being a bird and you're up in the sky. They are dealing with the entire raw land, everything about the site, the layout, things that have to do with special, even parking lot design, drainage, hydrology, grading. This is the very first step, especially in development. And it is extremely important. We don't get that involved, but this is where a developer would go first. So civil engineering drawings, they're the ones that deal with the raw land, developing, and so forth. So you just need to be aware of some of the things that they do. It's very expensive, the civil engineering portion of it, and they're extremely important. Now, architectural drawings, or what we call A drawings, this is something that you will be more familiar with. When I'm working with an architect, we work in conjunction as a team. What's so great when you know your architect and you can be a team first is that you're able to implement some of your design into their structural design. So they may come up with more of a footprint and they're dealing with codes and structure. They're bringing in all the other different professions, and they set the tone for the building shell. And we help to carve in that building shell. So it's really great when you have a good relationship with your architect. And these are the type of drawings he or she provides. They provide the construction drawings, site plan, which is from the civil engineer. They also do elevations. They deal a lot with exterior elevations also, because they're very concerned about the outside, this whole shell. They create the walls and all of the shell. They also do the building sections that you and I just discovered last week, and you did one. Hopefully you'll be turning that in. An isometrics. We talked a little bit about isometrics. They're kind of like 3D drawings. They do details, very intricate details, especially more structural and wall details, having to do more with construction. They also deal with a thing called BIM. It stands for Building Information Modeling. And basically, it's a tool of 3D, using 3D technology to create three-dimensional spaces to convey to the client what that space looks like. They may also provide perspectives, drawings, which are very realistic renderings. Sketch and design. They do preliminary sketch and design, and often they may even do a actual physical model of the space. And you see these different types of things. A lot of times they work on CAD, Revit, ArchiCAD. These are different computer programs that you will see that architects work on. So an architect will put together this set, and they will also give those sets to various other professions, and we'll look into that. We all work from that architectural set, and we develop our own type of drawings from the architect. He's kind of like the quarterback of the team. So you really want a great architect and one that communicates well. Many times the architects will share their AutoCAD drawing, what we call building shell, with us. And what in my design firm, we import that building shell and we have a beginning. Sometimes we don't have that luxury and have to create a floor plan or building shell. And that is a little more work. Now next, we are going to talk about the next type of drawings is a mechanical. They may be called M sheets. And M sheets are very intricate. They are dealing with a lot of like air conditioning, ventilation. We call that HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. They deal with ducting work and so forth. And mechanical drawings are extremely important. Sometimes they're referred to as engineering drawings. And it's important for us to really understand some of how to read some of these mechanical drawings, because what's happening in the ceiling, all these air vents, air ducts, and those things will reflect our personal reflective ceiling plan. If you have a big air duct in the ceiling, you certainly don't want to put a fluorescent light on top. So as you develop in your skill set and in the program, you're going to learn a little bit more about what are some of these drawings and how they affect our design and how we have to coordinate together. Even things like a simple thermostat. We certainly wouldn't want to put a built-in cabinetry over a thermostat, or worried about our electrical or water heater, gas connections. We need to know these things. Let's say if we were going to put a gas range in. And so knowing some of the mechanical components will help us be a better designer. And even like in my house, if you see in my office, there's a little air return right behind me in the wall right here, if you could see that. Well, I certainly wouldn't want to cover that up with some design element. I have to work around those things. So the mechanical does matter. There's a thermostat on the wall. I don't want to put a design element on top of that. Or I might have to work with the mechanical engineer to move some of these things like sprinklers or air ducts and those sort of things. So it's important that we work with our mechanical engineer as well. Next, we have electrical drawings, and these folks are certainly important. We may show the electrical engineer, where we want lights and so forth, but they're the ones that do all the gritty work and put together the electrical diagrams with all the circuitry. And all of this is super important because as the construction drawings are going, we need to rough in our electrical. We need to rough in and get inside those walls, all the mechanical. And so all of these things go in before we get to our fun finishes and our final part of the design. So electrical is important. It's great to work with the electrical engineer to understand where the wiring is and how they will help us when we present them with our reflective ceiling plan. We also work together with the electrical engineer. So They are an important component to the design team. And next, we have to work with plumbing. Let me tell you, plumbing is something that is one of the most expensive things, and you really have to have things planned out. So let's say the architect goes ahead and lays out all the kitchens and the restrooms. It's extremely important that once those are established, they have to route that plumbing, get all that trenching in for the drainage system. This is very expensive. So as a designer, we need to be sensitive to where the plumbing is, because this can make or break our budgets with the client. If you decide to do a kitchen remodel and you want to move the sink across the entire floor, well, you've got to think about all that plumbing draining going to that new sink. So it might not be worth the cost to actually saw cut into your concrete and change plumbing components. So the number one thing that designers need to be very aware of is, where are the plumbing fixtures? Where are these plumbing walls? These are certain things that we don't want to mess with too much, because we don't want to add to the cost or create a problem in construction. So we have to be aware. So like I said, these other, traits, we still need to understand things, and they affect our design, and our design may affect them. So it's good to just be exposed to them and have an understanding of their part in the entire process. So plumbing is extremely important, and they will help. They'll isolate valves. They do schematics that do drainage on in a home, and they have a huge component to the building. And this really needs to go in very early in the construction staging. So, like I said, they deal with a hot water heater, getting the sewage in and out, and they do a lot of very important work. Now we also finally get to something that we do. Now, an architect is an architect, and we are not architects. So you never want to call your drawings architecturals. They are not. An architect went to school, they're licensed, and they own all that liability. So just to be very clear, when you are doing your projects and so forth, you never name your sheets A sheet, like A1, meaning page 1. A stands for architect. We, at least in my company, we name our sheets ID1. That means interior design. That letter in front of a page number tells you what type of drawing it is. So if I have an A type of drawing, it stands for architect. If I have M1, I know just by the M, it's a mechanical drawing. If it has a P in front of it, it's a plumbing drawing. An E in front of it, it's an electrical drawing. Even, like I said, a K drawing would be for, in my place, a kitchen drawing. But ID drawing stands for interior design drawings. And that is what we do. We produce for a client is ID drawings. ID drawings are not architectural. However, they do set the interior design intent, the design intent. And a lot of times the contractors look to those drawings for placements of fixtures, for placements of finishes. And that's what we do, is we do that final touch, the final touches. We basically put the skin on top of the skeleton and make that happen. So they're very important as well, but you don't want to assume the responsibility of an architect. The architect is very important. They are in charge of that shell. They are liable for the structural elements of it, and we don't want any part of that type of liability. So we have to really be careful to protect ourselves as designers, that we differentiate ourselves between the architects and mechanical, electrical, and that so forth. We don't want to claim and do some of their work. So let the experts do their job and we will do ours. So ID drawings, what are in them? So these are the type of drawings that interior designers create to communicate their design intent. These are not architectural, design intent only. They're not for building per se, and you really need to protect yourself on your drawings to make that clear. Now, what type of drawings do we do? These are some of the drawings, and yet there are even more very obscure, specialized, but these are the basic drawings that we do as designers. We provide a floor plan. Often it's just called, maybe might be a base plan or a shell. We usually get this from the architect. And with that, all the other drawings come. We provide floor plans, a space plan, which is sometimes referred to as a furniture plan. That is basically taking the floor plan and adding furniture. We provide RCPs, which stand for Reflective Ceiling Plan. You guys have done that before. RCP, Reflective Ceiling Plan. We provide mainly interior elevations. There are sometimes that I might provide exterior elevations, but mainly to convey the design intent, like showing the exterior finishes, like the stone or the paint color I specify. We also do a specialty drawing called Finished Flooring Plan. That shows the flooring design. There might be many components to your flooring. Maybe you have insets or specialty tile design, and that's what that does. We also do details. Details are exaggerated portions of our design that show the details, how to millwork it, maybe millwork details and so forth. And it, once again, conveys the design intent. We may even do a wall finish plan, which shows the walls and what finishes are on the walls, like paint or wall covering. Sometimes some specialty drawings might be an art layout plan, which shows the art that goes on the wall. We do presentation like digital boards. We also provide plans that have specifications and also a plan that has general contractor's notes. We call those GC notes. So as you can see, there's a variety of drawings that as interior designers we're capable and trained to do. And you will be able to do several of these because I'm going to introduce you to them on our final project, and that starts this week. So we are going to start with the first drawing, which is just the floor plan or base drawing. And we are going to do a space plan, a furniture plan, a reflective ceiling plan. We are going to do those elevations, and we're going to do a finished flooring plan. So you're going to get to design the, and we're also going to provide a little detail so you get used to that. We're not going to go so far into the specifications and finishes, but I am having you select them. So the next step would be actually writing them up, but we just don't have the time, and you will learn to do that in your continued studio classes. But I do want you to learn to draw these plans, so it'll be good. So let's go to it. Now, let's talk about the floor plan or base plan or building shell. Now, drawing types. What does this drawing type include? What are the things that are included? Now, you guys have already done a floor plan, so you know some of this information. The floor plan will include all the walls. Just like we had on our last drawing, it did include all the walls. It also includes the fixtures, those things that are affixed to the property, like toilets and sinks. They're fixed to the property. Now it also includes dimensions, and I'm going to teach you and show you how we dimension a base plan or floor plan. Also, the floor plan will contain the room names, or it might even have a number. Larger commercial spaces often just number their rooms because there's so many. Always has that north arrow. It may have some notes. And architectural building elements, the doors, the windows, stairs, columns, just like we saw in that last floor plan. And also your built-in cabinetry, just like we saw in the kitchen. And always a title block. So all those components you've seen in that last plan. And that's what's in your base plan or shell. You guys have all done this for our last project. So we're going to take that to a different level. We're going to draft it ourselves, and that will be our base plan for the rest of the semester as we build these additional drawings. So let's get started. Floor plan. As you see, all the walls are nice and dark. They're solid. And they're showing windows in here, door swings, all the fixtures. Here's the sink. This represents a shower. You've got your toilets, a bathtub here. Once again, built-in cabinetry. Here's a little stove. Here's an island. So you'll see, once again, all the components that we saw in our last drawing. Now here, what they do have is dimensions, and they're dimensioning each room. And I will walk you through that. They also have all of these labeled rooms. They're telling you what they are. And that's usually always in a floor plan. Here's another type of floor plan. Here, this is more geared towards interiors, but once again, they are adding their windows. We see all the doors, the fixtures. Each room is numbered or identified. And in these cases, they actually have the sizes of each room. So you'll see there are variations of these floor plans, the sizes of each room. And often you'll see something like this in a lease or a model home layout. And they're also showing ceiling heights here. Do you see that? 9-foot ceiling height, 9-foot ceiling height. Over here, they're showing 10-foot ceiling heights. So this particular floor plan has a little bit more information about the ceiling. Where else do we see those ceiling heights? That's right, reflective ceiling plans. So showing you just some of these various floor plans, just kind of giving you an idea of those components that are important. Those dark walls, architectural features, fixtures, room names, dimensions. Let's see if we have another one. So we're going to dive into how to dimension these floor plans. Floor plan dimensioning. Well, dimensioning systems, what we do is we align dimensioning. So dimensions are placed in a line with the dimension lines and are read from the bottom or right side of the drawing sheet. I have said this before. Okay, dimension lines are solid. They're never dotted and not broken. And dimension lines are placed above the dimension line, approximately a 1/16 of an inch. So when we put those dimension lines, like I've stated before, you never touch the lettering on the line. You always put it a little bit above. That's also in case you have to erase it. You don't want to have to erase that line. So we always have like a 1/16 of an inch. You don't want it too high, but you don't want it on the line. It's important. So as you see here we are talking. See how we have this string of dimensions, and this dimension sit on top. That 14, 10, and 3/4 is on top of the line. Here it's on top of the line, and look it up here. It's on top of the line, and over here to the right, it's on top of the line, on top of the line. This is now, so when we're reading this drawing, we can see the dimensions. Instead of flipping it opposite, I don't want to flip my drawing around. I just want to be able to look at one angle and see and read each dimension. So that's what they mean when they're aligning. They're on top of the line. They're not touching the line, okay? They're on top of the line here. They're about a 1/16 of an inch. Do you see that? So we always place them on top. And then we only have to rotate them once. So we don't want to keep turning the whole drawing around. It gets very hard to read. So note the dimensions readable from the bottom of the sheet and the right side sheet above the dimension line. Right there, guys. See that? So making sure you're always putting that dimension above or on the right side is on top, okay? We don't want to keep switching the drawing over and over to see all the different sides of the dimension. Just keep it consistent on top or to the side, like. So you'll see that over and over again. And next we want to take a, so, oh, we can go back. Let's see. Yeah. Oop. I'm going a little, let me get back where we were. I guess this is not behaving. There we go. So it's just showing you right here in these arrows that the dimension lines are above the plan. Now, dimensioning floor plans. Dimension lines are arranged in a hierarchical manner where possible. So normally we always go from general, and each line you go in becomes more and more detailed. So overall dimension right here, that's just from one corner to the next. As you get into the second line of dimensioning, it's just now doing from wall to wall, like all the little jags. And then once you go into the third line of dimensioning, they add a center line for each window and door. And they're adding like every little jag. So that becomes more detailed. But the point I'm making here is you always have a line that's overall dimensions, then a secondary line, and then often a third line that has even more components. And we keep it nice and neat. We add these tick marks, and we make sure that they're on top here and they're not touching the line. Now look at this, guys. This is a center line. It's a line dash line dash line. That's showing that's the center of the door, the center of the window. So as these dimension lines are solid, sometimes your extension lines might be a center line or solid. It depends. So I don't want you to be too confused because we will walk through our floor plan and in exactly what we're supposed to dimension and how. I just want you to get an understanding that we usually on a floor plan do the overall dimension, and the next layer is a little bit more structural, just the structural components, and the next layer is more detailed. So you really want to get that understanding. Now, writing an actual dimension. Okay, so we do dimensions in feet and inches, and sometimes fractions. You know, if it's 7.5 inches, you put that down too. That could really matter. Even feet, maybe no inches. So if you don't have any inches, you just, put a 0 there, but you always put something. You might have feet and maybe just a fraction. So that's how you would draw that. Okay. No feet and just inches. If something's just 10 inches, that's under a foot, then you just have to put the inches on there. If there's, no inches, just 5.5, or no feet and only inches with a fraction, let's say it's 5.5 inches. That's how you would write that. So these are the ways that we write on our dimension line. Feet and inches, basically, feet and inches and fractions, just inches. And that kind of gives you, a little idea. And fractions only. If you've got a big detail and it's only a 3/4 of an inch, you would put that down. General rules, and I'm sorry, I think this is cutting off the little top, but I'll read it to you. General rules for following to place dimensions. Place exterior dimensions outside the floor plan, starting with the smallest first, then subtract, and finally overall totals. So you just kind of move your way outward. Place interior dimensions inside the floor plan in a string fashion, and I'll explain that. But that's when you're inside the wall to inside the wall. When you're in the exterior, you're going outside. But once you're in the interior, we can only go to the inside of the wall, to the inside of the wall. And we may string several dimensions. Just depends. So, oh my. I wish I can expand this. I'm thinking that I might have to escape this. There you go, and make it so that you guys could see this better. So sorry, but the recording area is cutting stuff off. So I just want to show you. In fact, I can go back. These are the exterior dimensions. Let's see, and you've seen all that. So I want you to see the full picture. So this is how we do our diagonal lines. I want to show you. It's important. We use tick marks. See these little tick marks right here? So the diagonal lines are what we use. necessarily don't use little arrows. Some people might do that, but we as interior designers, it's customary to use these tick marks. So for our class project, that's what we'll be doing. Okay. Now, when we do a little arrow, sometimes you require a little teeny arrow to make a note. Or let's say your dimension doesn't fit there. So we would put the dimension out here. This is how you do a little arrow. It allows it to be slender and it's very sleek and architectural. If there is an arrow needed, we always like to create a nice, narrow, sleek arrow. So making these little tick marks, how do you do a tick mark? Well, basically, when you bring your little lines, you know, your lines here, you actually do a little 45-degree little mark here. Make it thick. Use your little 45-degree triangle and just give it about 1/8 of an inch, not too big, not too small, but 1/8 of an inch, and just make a nice even tick mark and make it very dark. Okay, it's just a slash, and it goes over this direction. Higher right to down left, always. You don't do it this way, you do it that way. Okay, so it's commonly about 1/8 of an inch, a quarter. A quarter can be done freehanded. So I want you guys to be clear that when we do our dimensions, we bring down lines, we put a diagonal tick mark, we put our dimension on top of the line, but not touching the line, okay? In an exterior dimension, you're doing the outside. And as you go and you can do several different layers of dimension from the exterior and they get more and more specific. Interior, we go from one edge of the wall to another edge of the wall and we're measuring inside a room. So making sure that you know how to do it, and we'll walk through all that. So, but let's talk a little bit about where we're dimensioning from the edge of the wall to the edge of the wall. I just want to give you guys a little understanding about the construction of what's inside the wall. What makes it an exterior wall 6 inches? What makes an interior wall 4 inches? We discussed that in our last floor plan. Remember, I was telling you guys exterior walls are 6 inches, interior walls, they're 4 inches. It's important to understand what's going on inside of a wall to have that dimension. So you have it in your mind as you are dimensioning, you remember exterior walls are thicker and why. And I'm just going to show you the inside of it just so you can get an understanding. I think it's always good to understand how something's constructed so that you, as you're drawing it, you have a reason why you're drawing it that way. So as we look at a simple, this is a little wall section. This is like we talked about a section. It's like an x-ray view. I cut through it. Now, most walls are studded out or they use a 2x4 or a 2x6. That's when they're extra thick. And they make up the skeleton. So I just take a piece of 2x4 and that's where I start to frame my house. And a common framed wall is a total of 5¼ inch. That's the real size. But when we draft it, we actually draft it at 6 inches. This is a common practice for all drawings. There's a thing called an actual size and a nominal size. So actually, this exterior wall is really only 5¼ but we always draft it out as 6 inches. And to show you, though, how do we get that thickness? Okay, this is what we call the face of a stud. That's the beginning of that piece of wood. Then you start to layer on top of it. So you communicate to the carpenter, okay, this is an exterior wall dimension and the outside of the stud, there it is. This dimension is about 1¼ inch from the outside line of the wall. So what we are seeing here is, here's the stud, but we start to add about a 1¼ inch of stuff. And what is the stuff that we add? We add what's called sheathing. That is this is an exterior wall. That's some kind of blocking. It could be some plywood or some kind of blocking on top of the wall. Then we add our siding. This is the siding of the house. That's what makes it thicker. Now on the other side, now we're talking, this is the interior side. That's what we call gypsum board or drywall. Okay, so you've got the stud in the middle. On the exterior side, you have some kind of sheathing or protection and some siding material. On the opposite side, you have drywall or gypboard. We call that gypsum board. And that's what gives you an exterior wall. When we're dealing with interior walls, we have gypboard on both sides. We don't have to deal with this extra sheathing or siding. It's just gypboard on each side or drywall. So that's what differentiates the differences. So the spacing of dimensioning lines. So now that we kind of have an understanding, the first string of your dimensions are usually placed about 3/8 of an inch to an inch from the object, depending upon the amount of space available. The second string of dimensions are placed about 3/8 to a half an inch from the side string of the dimensions. And the additional strings are spaced like the second. So the point in all this is spacing your dimensions even. How far do you go out? About 3/8 of an inch, and then about a half an inch, then about another half inch. You want to make them nice and even. So look at what they have here. Here's the overall dimension, and then they have their second string of dimensions. They go from the outside to the center line of the window to the center line of the door. That's how they chose to dimension their exterior. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about steps of how you do this. And we will be doing this on our floor plan. Step 1. And don't be overwhelmed, but we're going to do this methodically in the demo video. So just kind of let this kind of sink in. And when we do the demo, I will actually physically show you what we're going to dimension. You'll have the demo to refer to as you do your floor plan and drawings. So don't be overwhelmed with this information, but it's good to know. Step 1 is we pull from the outside and we take any window and we do a little center line. We're going to do a center line. This isn't a center line, okay? And then we create the first dimension, okay? That's outside. We're going to go to the doors, the windows, and the outside. Okay, we're going to do that first, okay? And we're going to place this about 3/4 of an inch, not quite a whole inch away, just give it a nice space. Okay. Then we're going to pull a bigger line, and it's going to be any little jog of a full wall and a full wall. Okay. Here, same thing. Pull this line to this wall to this wall. Okay. That's our second string of dimensions. Once again, it's about a half an inch from the first string. So we are once again starting with the smallest, and they're going to go a little bit more general and then finally end up with overall dimensions. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. So this is how we're getting some nice dimensions. This helps with the building process for the contractor. And then finally, we will go to the final string dimensions, which is the overall dimensions. So when you look at the overall, they're just going from edge to edge. Here from edge to edge, edge to edge. Now you notice this only has 2 lines because that's all it needed. There was no jog or like movement. Here it has 3 lines because they needed the center line, they needed this wall, and then they need the whole thing. So we have 3 lines. So it just kind of depends on the structure itself. So we're wrapping up here. So what we'll do first on our demos, we're going to pull and start pulling all the little elements first and create our first string of dimensions. Then we will create another line with our more general string of dimensions. And then finally, we will do an overall dimensions and add our little tick marks. And that kind of concludes, how to, do dimensions. Now, like I said, after this video, and kind of a little understanding, we've learned some, really interesting things, a lot of information. The different types of drawings, right? We talked about civil engineer drawings. They're like the bird's eye. They do just the full land survey and everything has to do with the land and just getting it to the point it can go to an architect. We talked about architecturals and the kind of drawings they provide. We went into mechanical with air ducting, HVAC, and they're also sometimes called engineering drawings. We went into electrical, where they bring in the wiring and all of the conduit and so forth. We talked a little bit about plumbing and how they trench in all their drains and so forth. And then we kind of dived right into our interior design drawings, which included our floor plan, which we talked about today. We will talk about a space plan and furniture. We will have a reflective ceiling plan, a elevation, interior elevations. We talked about that they have sometimes a finished flooring plan. We also do details, specifications, general contractor's notes. So there's a whole slew of interior design drawings that we do. And just to reverberate, interior design drawings are not the same as architecturals. We're not architects and we do not name our drawings A drawings. They're ID drawings for interior design. Remember, the first initial on a drawing tells you what type of drawing it is. If it's M, it's mechanical. If it's A, it's architectural. If it's P, it's plumbing. If it's E, it's electrical. If it's ID, it's interior design. And we even talked about K drawings that I deal with, kitchen. So just to wrap that up, I want to just encourage you that we, as designers, work with all these types of drawings. We are going to be now, from here on out, doing our own ID drawings. And these are things that I do for my very own client. So you're going to be doing the very things that I do, and I'll be teaching you little tricks and information. And I think you'll really enjoy this project. I'm going to wrap this up, and we'll have a second half of a video that I will be playing and narrating some of the points. And it's basically how to read architectural drawings. It's kind of lengthy. It's a YouTube video, but it's really helpful. It's great to understand some of these things so that you could be empowered and know what you're looking at. So in the next video, make sure you look at the part 2 to this, which will be kind of learning how to read architecturals. It's a video. So till then, I will see you, and I hope you have a great week and are doing great on your projects. Take care.